operational security, and there's an opportunity here to maybe pursue them. Now, Ed, what else have we learned about how the White House uses these types of apps available to the public?
Well, first off, we know the president still uses a personal cell phone. Unclear if he discusses or receives any sensitive information or if there's any protection on that phone. As for Signal, we know administration officials today were reassessing how often to use it, but it is quite popular with Trump administration officials, as it was during the Biden era, because they discuss internally and externally all sorts of issues on it. The Trump team sees it as a convenient tool that is secure because there's been no evidence of it ever being hacked.
Ed, Maurice and I were talking earlier about the fact the White House says there's no classified information here, and we both said so they'd be okay with releasing it and letting Goldberg release it. Are they okay with it?
Well, not quite. Look, they're in cleanup mode. They acknowledge this is a mistake, but they are in no way encouraging Goldberg to release the rest of the information he has, believing private conversations should have and should remain private.
One more thing here, Ed, just 15 seconds or so. What would happen if a low-level staffer did this kind of thing? Would they still have a job?
If it was someone in the military, they'd likely be court-martialed and kicked out. Intelligence, diplomatic, and military officials, no. You don't share classified or sensitive information on commercially available apps because it's against the law.
Ed O'Keefe at the White House for us. Thank you, Ed.
We have an update now on a story we've been following closely, the deportation of hundreds of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador without due process.
The Trump administration insists they are criminals and gang members, but as we've reported, there is reason to believe some are not.
Lily Luciano talked to another wife who insists her husband is no criminal and no gang member, and then Lilia spoke to the president's border czar.
By now, you've seen the videos from El Salvador. More than 200 Venezuelan men deported from the U.S. and dropped into one of the world's most dangerous prisons, known as Secot.
¿Tú los reconociste? Sí. You recognized him?
One of the faces in the crowd is Nice's partner, she says.
How did you feel when you saw the prison?
Mucho temor, miedo.
It was terrifying to see the videos.
She's 9 months pregnant, past her due date.
Él no va a estar presente.
He's not going to be there when his child is born.
Her partner is Henry Albornoz. The 29-year-old crossed a year ago. She says he's been working in Texas and was detained in January during a routine check-in with federal agents. According to his attorney, Albornoz has no criminal record here or in Venezuela.
He has never been a gang member.
No, nunca tuvo involucraciones en eso.
He was never involved in any criminal activity.
No, una persona muy trabajadora, muy pendiente de la familia,
He's a
muy
good
responsable,
man,
primero su hogar ante todas las cosas.
His family first, above all things, hardworking.
The Trump administration says the men deported were all members of a criminal gang called Tren de Aragua, known as TDA. But we reported last week on a similar case where a Venezuelan migrant with no known criminal record also landed in the Secot prison.
We came to the White House to talk to the border czar, Tom Homan, to better understand why the government says that these men are all terrorists.
I've been told by the highest levels of ICE, the men and women of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who built that manifest, who went to each of these files, spent hundreds and hundreds of hours investigating each and every one of these people, that they are in fact, every one of them, a member of TDA.
How do you know they are all members? Have you seen that evidence?
I have not dilled on every file. Again, I'm trusting the men and women who do this for a living.
Is it possible that the administration made a mistake by sending 238 men saying that they are TDA members, assuring that they're all TDA members without us seeing
I'm not
what
worried
the
mistakes
evidence
at all,
is?
but I can tell you this, not every gang member has a criminal record.
And Lilia Luciano joins us now from Washington. Lilia, we've been wondering from the very beginning here, for those with no criminal record, what's the recourse? How do they get out of this situation?
Maurice, that is a great question. I have asked the government of El Salvador, and they said, you have to ask the U.S. government. That is why I wanted to sit with Tom Homan. He referred me to the courts, said that's going to be figured out in courts. I asked, can they be brought back to get that due process? He said it's up to the DOJ, but the Department of Justice refusing to answer questions about the deportees to the very courts.
Lilia Luciano for us in Washington. Thank you.
Now some of the top stories from around the world. In tonight's Evening News Roundup, Texas is offering a plea deal to the gunman who killed 23 people in a 2019 attack on Latinos at an El Paso Walmart. It would allow Patrick Crucius, who's 26, to avoid the death penalty. He's already serving life for federal hate crimes.
Russia and Ukraine have agreed to stop attacking each other in the Black Sea Sea. Since the war began, Ukraine says it has sunk or damaged about a third of Russia's Black Sea fleet.
Vice President J.D. Vance says he'll join his wife on her visit to Greenland on Friday. President Trump has talked about taking control of Greenland, and the Prime Minister says the high-level visits are a provocation.
And Senate confirmation hearings today for the president's nominee to head the Social Security Administration. Frank Bisignano said he has never discussed privatizing Social Security. A former head of the agency shares his concerns about the future of that agency tonight on Evening News Plus.
Still ahead here on the CBS Evening News, Rob Marciano on the record high temperatures in the west and the threat of severe storms in the center of the country.
And we will have these stories.
I'm Meg Oliver. The number of college applications set a new record.